Thank you for your interest. Hello, and thank you for your interest in the Maffa Mystic Avenue Bridge Superstructure Replacement Project. My name is Kevin Laramie, MassDOT District 6 Area Engineer for the project. The below is the agenda for this meeting. Welcome and overview, construction progress to date, Phase 2 construction overview, MBTA shutdowns, Lombardi Street improvements. This is the project team. From MassDOT, we have Theodore Boyle, MassDOT Design Build Project Manager, Mauricia Yeb, District 6 Assistant Construction Engineer, Kevin Laramie, District 6 Area Engineer, Samal Montero, District 6 Resident Engineer, and Dan Fielding, Legislative Affairs. From the MBTA, we have Catherine Zazera, Deputy Director of Right-of-Way Diversion and Integration, and Rebecca Wolfson, the Project Manager from Transit Priority Planning. From the design build team, we have Skanska, who's the contractor, Rob Pine, project executive, Frank Salmon, project manager, Michael Scott, project engineer, and from CHA, the design engineer, we have Mike Sullivan, the design project manager, and Andrew Velkovich, the highway design engineer. With that, I'll turn it over to Mike Sullivan from CHA.
Thanks so much, Kevin. So as you all know, the main objective for this project was to replace the two nearly structural deficient bridges carrying Maffa Way and Mystic Avenue. But in addition to replacing the two bridge superstructures, we're also hoping to address multimodal accessibility in the region. We plan on maintaining general purpose travel lanes on each of the bridges. We're working to provide separate bicycle accommodations in the area. We're improving sidewalk connectivity, maintaining the existing bus lane on Maffa Way. We're adding a new bus lane on Mystic Avenue, and also some bus and bicycle improvements along Lombardi Street, which we're going to be discussing at the end of this presentation. And then the final project overview or goal here is to integrate with future projects, such as private developments in Sullivan Square and future Rutherford Avenue improvements. How is the construction progressing? So CHA and the design builder Skanska, we wrapped up our issued for construction plans in March of 2024, right before we started phase 1 construction in April of last year. Phase 1 construction wrapped up just last month, and here we are today in February of 2025 at this public information meeting. And we plan on wrapping up this project and wrapping up phase 2 in winter of 2026. As you're aware, we've had ongoing public outreach for this project. We've had several public information meetings right before phase 1 construction. We've issued flyers to several of the neighborhoods in the project area that are affected, especially for these phase 2 detours, which have been implemented as of a couple of weeks ago. We've provided notices to local community organizations. We've had meetings with local residents. We continue to post project updates on the project website, including important e-blasts of major milestones. And we've provided notices in several neighborhood newspapers. Now, I'd like to just provide a quick overview of what we've done to date with construction. So as I've said previously, we've wrapped up phase 1 of construction, which included the reconstruction of the north side of the Maffa Way Bridge and the south side of the Mystic Avenue Bridge. So here are a couple of photos just documenting that phase 1 construction. In this first slide, we have just a couple of shots showing the phase 1 demolition of the existing superstructures. This next slide showed how Skanska and CHA worked to reconstruct the substructures for those barrels of the new bridges. So here on the left side, you have just a photo showing precast concrete pier caps being erected at the Mystic Avenue Bridge. And on the right side of the slide, this is just a photo showing the cast in place construction of the new abutments. After the substructures were installed, Skanska worked to erect the new steel superstructures. As you can see from this photo, it was very challenging, working over 7 active railroad tracks and beneath the I-93 viaduct, while also maintaining traffic on the bridges at the same time. This next slide shows Skanska constructing the new portions of the bridge decks. The slide on the left here shows some of the utilities that were installed on the new Maffa Way north side barrel of the bridge. And this slide on the right just shows some of the concrete being poured for the concrete deck. And finally, phase one construction, we wrapped up last month. And as you're aware, we shifted into phase two, temporary traffic control. So now vehicular and pedestrian traffic is now live over those newly constructed phase one portions of the bridge. Now for phase two construction overview, that's kicking off as of a couple of weeks ago with the temporary shifts in traffic. If we can go to the next slide, Drew. Basically, what we're planning to do for phase two construction is the opposite of phase one. So we're going to be reconstructing the south side of the Maffa Way Bridge and the north side of the Mystic Avenue Bridge. In order to construct these barrels of the bridges, we plan on taking a similar approach to phase one. So we plan on having a 9-day outage of the Orange Line. That's tentatively scheduled here for May 2025. And we plan on wrapping up construction by winter of 2026. Some of you may be familiar with some of these slides here showing the proposed cross sections that have been implemented for phase two construction. So on the top side of this slide, this is the existing Maffa Way existing conditions that were out there before construction began. As you can see, we had 3 all-purpose travel lanes, 2 from I-93 and 1 from Broadway, and a 12-foot only bus lane with an 8.5-foot sidewalk. Now for phase 2 construction, out there currently we have 1 lane carrying traffic from the I-93 off-ramp and 1 lane carrying traffic from Broadway Street, and we have a temporary 5-foot sidewalk to allow for pedestrian connectivity. And on the Mystic Avenue Bridge on the next slide, we have the existing conditions at the top. We had 4 all-purpose 11-foot travel lanes and an 8.5-foot sidewalk. For phase 2 construction, we have 2 travel lanes and a 5-foot temporary sidewalk. Ongoing construction mitigation. Skanska has been working very hard to make sure that construction impacts are mitigated for the neighboring residents out there. It's a very challenging work site, but for the most part, Skanska has tried to maintain standard work hours with very limited exceptions for certain, overnight or weekend activities. Case in point, this past weekend we were out there working on taking advantage of an MBTA shutdown, and so there were some overnight activities. However, that's not the norm for this project. For the most part, all of the activities are planned from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Skanska has worked hard to mitigate ongoing traffic impacts to the area. We've worked with some of the neighborhood groups to install additional neighborhood signage to alleviate cut-throughs and just make it a little bit safer in these neighborhoods. Skanska has also worked on noise mitigation, dust mitigation, and pest control. And finally, we just want to make note that the contract as written by Mass DOT has some very harsh disincentives and some incentives that Skanska is working to capitalize, just to make it sure that Skanska is working to be compliant with the contract milestones and make sure that this project is finished on time with minimal impacts to the community. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Katie Zazzara from the MBTA, who's going to talk about some of these upcoming MBTA shutdowns.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Katie Zazzara, Deputy Director of RDPI and MBTA Operations, and I'm here to share with you the upcoming closures related to the Maffa Mystic Bridge project. There will be another weekend shutdown beginning Friday night, March 7th into the weekend, ending at the end of service on Sunday, March 9th. This will impact both the commuter rail and the Orange Line, And as previously mentioned, there will be a 9-day shutdown of just the Orange Line beginning on Friday, May 9th at 8:30 p.m. through the end of service on Sunday, May 18th. As far as service that will be provided during these shutdowns for the March weekend, similar to previous weekends we've had this year, there will be shuttle busing for both the commuter rail and the Orange Line. The Orange Line shuttle bus will make all stops between Oak Grove and North Station. And again, that begins on the Friday night. For the commuter rail, the shuttles will run just on Saturday and Sunday, March 8 and 9. And please note that for this coming weekend, 3 commuter rail lines will be shut down as the MBTA is taking advantage to work on our North Station Signals project. Service will be available on the Haverhill line with an express shuttle that will stop at Oak Grove, Malden Center, and North Station. On the Newburyport Rockport line, we will have the same shuttle we always have between Swampscott and North Station, which also stops at Wonderland on the Blue Line. And the Lowell line will be making all local stops on the shuttle between Anderson, Woburn, and North Station. For the 9-day surge, it will again only impact the Orange Line. The shuttle will make all local stops between Oak Grove and North Station. Customers can also use the Haverhill line at this time for service into North Station, making stops at Oak Grove and Malden Center. For more information as we get closer to these closures and to be up to date on what service is being provided, you can visit mbta.com/alerts. And with that, I am going to pass it over to Ted to talk about the improvements being made to Lombardi Street.
Thank you so much, Katie. Hello, I'm Ted Boyle. I am the Mass DOT Design Build Project Manager for the Maffa Way Mystic Avenue Bridge Replacement Project. The City of Boston, City of Somerville, and MBTA have identified to MassDOT a growing need to upgrade the road network in the vicinity of the Maffa Way Mystic Avenue project. The network urges to acquire a more multimodal focus, meaning giving equal focus to vehicles, bicyclists, pedestrians, and buses. Originally, this area was not a part of the bridge replacement project. After conversations with key stakeholders, we all recognize the opportunity to expand the limits of the project and include these upgrades through the design build process. MassDOT has partnered with the cities and MBTA to implement this work that is extensively aimed at implementing upgrades that will provide improved safety, mobility, and accessibility, as well as offer multiple options to move through the corridor as the community grows. We are excited to introduce these updates for the project. And with that, I'll hand it over to Drew Valkovic with CHA to review the Lombardi Street improvements.
All right, thank you, Ted. As Ted said, my name is Drew Valkovic, and I am the highway engineer for CHA on the project. Before we get into the changes to the project, I first want to outline the original limits for those of you who are less familiar with it. This figure is an aerial image of the existing conditions in the area. To help orientate yourself, the Sullivan Square MBTA station is just outside the picture to the bottom right of the screen, and Assembly Row is up to the top left of the screen. The Somerville Boston City line is shown in black that cuts through the middle of the project. The blue rectangles show the original limits of the project on both Maffa Way, Broadway, and Mystic Avenue. The original project included Mystic Avenue from the Grand Union Boulevard and Lombardi Street intersection to a few hundred feet east of Dorrance Street, shown in the top rectangle, as well as Broadway and Maffa Way from the Lombardi Street and Mount Vernon Street intersection to just east of the intersection with the bus entrance to Sullivan Square MBTA station, shown in the bottom rectangle. Note that Lombardi Street in this figure is a street that cuts underneath I-93 on the left side of the figure and is mostly blocked out by the I-93 overpass. As primarily a bridge replacement project, the original project treated Maffa Way and Mystic Avenue sort of as separate corridors. So this slide, this figure shows the current design of the entire project, including the expanded limits and modifications to the design of portions of the original project. There are 3 main components that I want to highlight on this slide, and we will go into further detail on each in the following slides. The first is the addition of Lombardi Street to the project with the goal of improving bicycle and bus transit facilities through the area. I want to point out that we are showing Lombardi Street above I-93 in this graphic, but that is just for clarity of showing the proposed final condition. Lombardi Street will remain below I-93 as it does today. The second area I want to highlight is changes to bicycle and bus accommodations on Broadway and Maffa Way, shown here. And the third is a new pedestrian and bicycle crossing from Sullivan MBTA station to Mystic Avenue. The overall intent of these changes is to improve pedestrian, bicycle, and bus connections between key destinations in the area, such as the Sullivan MBTA station, Assembly Row, and the various neighborhoods and businesses in Somerville and Charlestown. So let's first focus on the improvements to Lombardi Street. First, we will be constructing a new 10-foot wide two-way bike facility on the east side of Lombardi Street, shown here. The bike lanes will be separated from vehicular traffic with a 3-foot wide concrete raised median for added comfort and safety. We will be adding a bicycle crossing across Mystic Avenue to connect bicycles to a shared use path on Mystic Avenue, as well as to existing bicycle lanes on Grand Union Boulevard that lead into Assembly Row to the north. To the south, at the intersection with Broadway, bicycles will also be able to connect to the existing bike lane on Broadway headed westbound and to the bus and bike only lane headed eastbound, which I will cover in just a few slides. Push buttons at the crossing points will be provided for bicycles to press to initiate a crossing phase, and they will be able to cross at the same time as pedestrians. Secondly, we will be adding a new southbound bus only lane on Lombardi Street, shown here, which will help improve MBTA bus operations through this busy area and accommodate the MBTA's future bus network plans. In order to fit the new bus and bicycle facilities while maintaining the existing curb to curb width for most of Lombardi Street, we will be removing the existing center median, as well as one of the 2 northbound vehicular lanes. The existing sidewalk on the east side of Lombardi Street is going to be retained and will remain in the final condition. In order to maintain vehicular traffic flow through Lombardi Street and the adjacent street network, our team has worked with the DOT and cities to complete a thorough traffic analysis of these changes. As a result, we will be adjusting the traffic signal timings and how these 3 signals are coordinated with each other to ensure that traffic functions similar as to how it did before construction. Portions of the existing signal equipment will need to be reconstructed in order to accommodate the geometric changes and additional bus and bicycle lanes. This slide shows a comparison of the current cross-section of Lombardi Street shown on the top figure and the proposed condition on the bottom. Starting at the top left, we show the 2 southbound lanes that eventually direct traffic left or right onto Broadway, the cement concrete median that varies in width from 4 feet to about 14.5 feet, and the 2 northbound travel lanes with a left turn lane at the Mystic Avenue intersection that allows for lefts onto Mystic Avenue headed westbound. The existing sidewalk on the east side of Lombardi Street is shown on the right side of the screen. Note that the width of road available to us is restricted by the existing supports for I-93 overpass on each side of the road, making roadway widening on Lombardi Street not feasible. On the bottom figure shows the proposed condition. We show the 2 southbound lanes being shifted over and the existing median being removed to make room for the southbound bus only lane. Also, the new 2-way bike facility is shown on the right side with 1 northbound through lane and the left turn lane onto Mystic being maintained. Note that the sidewalk is also being maintained in the proposed condition. So let's move on to the second component I want to highlight, which is the changes to Broadway and Maffa Way. Between the Lombardi Street and Mount Vernon Street intersection, which is just to the left of this figure, and the Caldwell Street intersection in the center, we will provide a new eastbound bus and bicycle only lane. I want to note that there is an existing 12-foot wide sidewalk on the south side of Broadway that will be retained in this area. East of Caldwell Street and up to the Sullivan MBTA station, bicycles will be separated from the buses by a 4-foot raised concrete median, and each will receive their own dedicated facility across Maffa Way. The sidewalk across the Maffa Way Bridge will be reconstructed to a wider width from the existing conditions, ranging from 8 to 12 feet wide. In order to provide the bus and bicycle only lane on Broadway, we will be removing the existing on-street parking and bicycle lane. The Broadway and Maffa Way corridor here is a key corridor for the MBTA due to the close proximity to the MBTA Orange Line station. And these changes will help to improve bus operations while balancing the need to provide safe accommodations for bicycles and pedestrians within this constrained area. I want to note that we did consider ways to provide a dedicated bike-only lane along Broadway, but we are constrained on both sides of the road due to the presence of a parking lot and the I-93 ramp on the north side, as well as the buildings located right at the back of the sidewalk on the south side. Due to the high pedestrian volumes in the area, we did not want to reduce the sidewalk width on Broadway. All right, and lastly, let's move on to the new crossing point east of the bridges. We are proposing to add a new crossing at the intersection of the bus entrance to the Sullivan MBTA station that will connect bicycles and pedestrians from the MBTA station to the south to a new shared use path on Mystic Avenue to the north. In this figure, the bicycle crosswalks are shown in the green and the pedestrian crosswalks in white across Maffa Way and Mystic Avenue. In between Maffa Way and Mystic Avenue, on the west side of that short busway in the middle of the figure, we will provide a section of new 10-foot wide cement concrete sidewalk and a 10-foot wide two-way bicycle lane that connects the two crosswalks. To provide a safe crossing across the 3 lanes of vehicular traffic on Mystic Avenue / Main Street, a new traffic control signal will be installed. Pedestrians and bicycles will be able to push a button to initiate a crossing phase that will stop traffic on Main Street. The same is true for the existing signal at Maffa Way, which will be modified to accommodate this new crossing. Whenever there is not a pedestrian and bicycle looking to cross, the signal will be green for vehicles on Main Street. Overall, this addition will help to improve connectivity and ensure that the project meets the needs of both current and future growth in the area. So that about does it for the information on Lombardi Street changes. Moving on to how we will keep you informed for this project. We'll be doing continued public outreach, so there will be e-blasts and website updates to be provided ahead of major construction activities. As always, MBTA service alerts and information. You can visit the link there. And how to reach us. There's 3 main ways. Submit comments or questions to the email address shown here. We have a project hotline, 781-999-0261. The hotline is answered Monday through Friday during business hours, and all calls received after hours will be returned the next business day. We also have a website with the QR code that you can scan to receive updates about the project. And with that, I want to thank everyone for attending this presentation, and I hope you all have a good day.